Here are 10 legal rights most people don't know they have. This is a global edition. So let me know in the comments below if your country has one of these. Number 1. Protection from unreasonable search and seizure. Whether you live in the United States or Canada, chances are that you have some rights against unreasonable search and seizure by the government. You may not know, however, that this also applies to your digital data. Unless the police obtain a valid warrant from a judge based on probable cause, they cannot legally access your private communications, such as emails or text messages, without your consent. And although there are exceptions to this rule, such as when it comes to public safety in general, it's illegal for someone to hack into your account or use other means to access your private information without your permission. No. 2. Right to destroy evidence against yourself. If you have any evidence in your possession that could be used against you in a criminal case, you have the right to destroy it. In fact, the police cannot legally compel you to hand over any evidence that would tend to incriminate you. Anything that can be used to prove a fact in issue in a criminal case can be considered evidence. And so, for example, if you find yourself under investigation for a crime, you can destroy the very item that allegedly constitutes the evidence against you. However, what you cannot do is claim the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination after the fact. In other words, you can't destroy evidence and then say that you did so because you didn't want to incriminate yourself. The rationale behind this rule is to prevent individuals from destroying important evidence before authorities have a chance to gather it. No. 3. Protection from cruel and unusual punishment. Everyone is entitled to be treated humanely by the state, even criminals. Torture and cruel punishment are illegal. But did you know that you may also be able to argue that a law itself is unconstitutional if it results in cruel and unusual punishment? An example of this might be a law that requires all misdemeanors to result in mandatory life imprisonment. Or consider a law that allows for the death penalty for crimes other than murder. These types of laws violate international standards for humane treatment and may therefore be successfully challenged in court. 4. Right to remain silent. Although many people in the United States are aware of their right to remain silent when being questioned by the police, did you know that you also have a right to refuse to answer questions in other situations? For example, if you are summoned to testify in court, you may refuse to answer questions if they tend to incriminate you. Similarly, you may also refuse to answer questions during an administrative proceeding or during a government investigation. It is important to note that this right does not apply to most internal workplace investigations. No. 5. Protection from double jeopardy. Did you know that once a criminal trial concludes with an acquittal or a conviction, you cannot be tried again for the same crime? The legal term for this is double jeopardy. The reason for this is to prevent the government from continuously harassing individuals by prosecuting them over and over again for the same alleged crime. Now, just because you've been acquitted does not mean that you are automatically innocent. It simply means that the prosecution failed to prove its case against you beyond a reasonable doubt. Also, keep in mind that this only applies to criminal trials. You can still be sued for the same conduct in a civil court. Number 6. Right to due process. Speaking of criminal trials, did you know that you have a right to due process? This right ensures that the government does not deprive you of life, liberty, or property without following fair procedures. For example, suppose you are arrested for a crime. In that case, you must be brought before a judge as soon as possible so that the judge can determine whether there is enough evidence to justify detaining you. Otherwise, you must be released. Additionally, you have the right to have an attorney represent you at all critical stages of the criminal justice process. Without these procedural safeguards, the government could arbitrarily arrest and punish individuals without giving them a fair opportunity to defend themselves. 7. Freedom from unlawful employment discrimination. Did you know that you may not be fired from your job simply because of a protected characteristic such as race, sex, religion, or disability? It is also illegal to discriminate against someone based on their national origin, age, or pregnancy. Even if you work in a hostile environment where your colleagues make offensive jokes or comments based on one of these characteristics, this can create a hostile work environment and constitute unlawful discrimination. The best way to protect yourself in such situations is to report the behavior to your employer or to file a complaint with the relevant government agency. 8. Right to privacy. Although your home is your castle, did you know that you also have a right to privacy when you're outside of your home? This right prevents the government from conducting unreasonable surveillance of your activities in public. For example, the government cannot legally plant a GPS tracker on your car or hire a private investigator to follow you around without a valid warrant based on probable cause. And although there are exceptions to this rule, such as when it comes to national security in general, the government cannot legally spy on you simply out of curiosity or to investigate whether you are engaged in criminal activity. 9. Protection from unlawful arrest. When the police accuse you of committing a crime, they must have probable cause to believe that you committed it before taking you into custody. However, the police often do make unlawful arrests without having sufficient evidence. Therefore, it is always a good idea to challenge an arrest in court if you feel that the police lacked probable cause to take you into custody. After all, being arrested can have serious consequences, such as losing your job, damaging your reputation, or even being put in jail. That's why it's crucial to hold law enforcement accountable when they make unlawful arrests. By challenging an unlawful arrest, you not only protect yourself from false accusations, but you also help ensure that law enforcement officers are held accountable for their actions. Number 10. Protection from government retaliation. If you are a whistleblower who exposes illegal or unethical conduct by the government, you have the right to be free from retaliation. However, the government often retaliates against whistleblowers to prevent them from exposing misconduct. Therefore, it is important to consult with an attorney to ensure that your rights are protected if you plan to expose misconduct. By protecting whistleblowers, we encourage individuals to come forward and expose wrongdoing without fear of reprisal. This helps to ensure that the government is held accountable and that we, the citizens, are protected from misconduct. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. And remember, freedom is scary. Deal with it. I'm just kidding. I love you guys. Bye-bye.